At a certain point in your life, there are things you simply can't remember. Like the first time I tasted ice cream or even watched a cartoon on the TV. Things that I have done so often throughout my life, but for some neurological reason, I can't remember the point of origin. However, my love for the outdoors is the exception. I remember the exact time when I strolled down the footpath into the woods, following it as it wound its way past huge trees that have stood for over 100 years. They blocked out the sky like hands shading me from the heat of summer, emerging onto a small wooden footbridge that crossed a slow-running brook, where I then looked across to fields filled with cattle, the sun now breaking through the ceiling of trees, warming my face. I was 8 years old and spending the summer with my grandparents, a holiday away from my home in North London. My grandparents, who are now sadly passed away, moved into this house in 1949 with my auntie and an uncle who, at the time, was just a baby. My mother was born a couple of years later, and then another uncle a few years after that, and so the family was complete. This was, however, another time, a time where everyone knew each other in the avenue of houses which was lined with trees, and a community spirit which was ever present, unlike today where the world is connected electronically and the need for conversation is less as we communicate via words and acronyms, a language born out of the modern era which I fail to understand. My family lived in that house for over 50 years until my grandmother's passing, and with it a piece of my childhood passed away with her. That summer was filled with long walks over the fields and fishing in the shallows for stone loach and bullheads in what was known locally as the Red River. I have never forgotten the joy of being able to roam free in that open space. I guess you could say it was a Huckleberry Finn adventure all of my own. It wasn't long after that summer that we moved into my grandparents' house for a short period of time. This allowed me to explore the woodlands and river even more, learning the local fishing hotspots, where I would sit patiently trying to catch perch in a spot aptly named as Perch Pool. Or I would head to Minnow Corner to catch live bait, after which I would walk back through the footpaths past places like Fallen Ledge, heading to the mecca of Red River fishing, which was known as Cattle Bridge. Where monsters of the deep were meant to lurk in the form of pike and carp. I spent many a day whiling away the hours sat under the bridge, lying in water in a vain attempt to pull one of these monsters out. And over the years I did occasionally have some success. As I moved into my teens, my love of the Red River never drifted away. I would spend weekends fishing and eventually start wild camping, riding my BMX bicycle over the fields to hidden spots, carrying a cheap sleeping bag, a tin of beans and a paraffin lamp which was borrowed from a skip that was parked on the road just down from my home. All this would be contained in my paper round bag slung over my shoulder as we pedalled the short distance to the footpath which was situated next to my grandparents' house. Myself, and a buddy would cook beans on an open fire, talking till we fell asleep, to be awoken in the morning by the sound of the river and the sunlight breaking through the trees, where we would then head off to the newsagents to collect our papers to do our paper rounds. I look back now and think how simple the world was, and even though we never had much money, we didn't need anything. Contentment was found in friendship and in our own entertainment. It was some years later that the cattle farm was closed and the open spacious fields in which they roamed was turned into a golf course. The sign of progress, I guess. I am now middle-aged and have children of my own, and so have now come full circle. But to this day I still occasionally wander down to the river, reminiscing of the summers where I tackled monster pike and lay under trees in my sleeping bag, listening to the sound of the river, dreaming of even bigger adventures. It is, however, likely that the next generation of explorers, mountain climbers, hikers, or even wild campers will not gain their inspiration from this magical place where people today switch off from everyday life while playing golf, cross-country running, riding their bicycles, walking their dogs, or, on occasion, trying to pull a few monster carp or pike out of the river. It is indeed disappointing that we could see the bulldozers move in and destroy this area, robbing the local community of an open green space where so many enjoy their spare time. An area thriving with wildlife will be gone forever, and in its place, a housing development with 1,100 homes. The footpath that would wind you to this magical world reminiscent of stepping through the wardrobe into Narnia will be gone, and in its place, a bus lane. It's as if the small market town in which I've grown up in is growing itself out of control, like a virus would grow in a body, attaching itself to cells and then destroying them, an ever-evolving mass expanding until one day there will be no separation between towns, all the green spaces gone forever in the name of additional housing and progress. It would be easy to now blame politics or the developers and landowners that will profit from this, but essentially laying blame will be futile. This is not a localised issue. This is happening all over the country and probably all over the world. How quick we are to recoil with disgust at the tragic decimation of the world's rainforests and the effect that has on the planet and inhabited wildlife, And while this is just and worthy of our contempt, is losing a small piece of our own wooded green spaces not worthy of the same contempt? And if it is, then should we not be fighting this development with the same vigour? A small market town with its own small oasis, a rainforest of its own, home to fish in the river, birds in the trees, and the wildlife in the woods, and home to mine and many others' childhoods. Once it's gone forever.